Good evening, Love Bay family, and welcome to the Mental Health Hour on Love Bay Afrobeat Music and Talk Radio. I'm your host, Felicia Fischhoff, registered psychotherapist and founder of Rooted in Resilience Psychotherapy and Wellness. Here's a quick reminder of our weekly flow. Week one is She Speaks, uplifting women's voices and healing journeys. Week two is Barbershop Tuesday, just like tonight. Brothers coming together for honest talk on men's mental health. And week three is Insight Hour, expert perspectives and deeper dives. Week four is Real Talk, raw, unfiltered community dialogue. And whenever we have a fifth week, it's Wild Card Tuesday, surprise topics, special guests, and fresh takes. Tonight's episode is an important one. When Love Hurts, Men, Trauma, and Domestic Violence. Our panel is no stranger to the Love Bay family. These brothers have been showing up with honesty and wisdom week after week. But for those tuning in for the very first time, here's a quick rundown of who's joining us tonight. Mathew Parris, a creative entrepreneur and digital strategist. Mathew is passionate about building experiences that matter both online and offline. He brings heart, purpose, and honesty to Barbershop Tuesdays. Kunle Ifabiyi, a registered social worker and psychotherapist with nearly a decade of experience. Kunle creates spaces where men can speak freely without judgment. His empowering approach reminds brothers that strength starts with showing up. Josh Dale, a registered psychotherapist with over 10 years of experience in trauma therapy and addiction recovery. Warm and collaborative, Josh brings humor, insight, and practical tools to help men rest, reflect, and heal. Andrew Peterkin, a registered psychotherapist with a passion for real, honest conversations. Through Emoja Psychotherapy, Andrew helps men unpack struggles, rewrite the script, and reconnect with their inner strength. But before we dive in, I want to pause and acknowledge that September is Suicide Awareness Month. It's a reminder that these conversations matter and that reaching out for help is an act of courage and never weakness. The Mental Health Hour is a space for dialogue and community, but it does not replace therapy. If you or someone you know is struggling, please reach out for professional or crisis support. And remember, the chat is open tonight. Invite your uncles, your cousins, your sons, and friends into this space because tonight's conversation is one they need to hear. We love to hear your thoughts, reflections, and questions as we journey through this together. So let's dive in.
Right. How's it going?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's good to be back.
Oh my
Another night on
gosh.
the radio. Good
Oh my gosh.
conversations.
I have been looking forward to this conversation for so long because it is such a well needed conversation that we do not have often enough anyway. And so, I love to start off the episode with this question because I think it sets the tone for our conversation. Why does the Love Bay family need to be talking about this topic tonight? I felt the sigh. It's like, oh.
I can get us started. First, I want to
Yes.
appreciate you for that introduction. That's
Yes.
awesome. Listening to that
Yes.
every time just gets me. Thank you for that.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course.
So why do Love Bay family need to listen to this conversation? This is a conversation well overdue. This is a conversation that doesn't get talked about. This is a conversation a lot of people are not aware of. There's a lot of stigma around men's mental health. Even hearing men and the idea of domestic violence doesn't seem to correlate. So this is a conversation that we necessarily need to talk about. So I'm excited for us to have this conversation today and
Yes,
just to get us started.
absolutely.
Yeah. I think in the fact that Kunle said of it, it doesn't get talked about. I think perhaps as they're listening in, right, this could be maybe it's someone that is listening that is experiencing domestic violence as a male, right? And this could be planting a seed. This could be support. I think it's encouraging people to start to have these conversations. And so I'm just thankful to be able to talk about this with my brothers here and you, Felicia. Yeah, like, we probably have listeners that are listening to this that are experiencing this. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
100%. And honestly, just to ripped off of that, like, I'm just glad to be here, just for such a deep and powerful discussion. We know we've been saying this, the last few months, men tend to suffer in silence. And this is definitely a big topic that is very rarely addressed. So I'm glad we can dive deeper into it today, engage with our community. And there are people we know that, are going through it. So looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm grateful to be here with you guys for sure. I just like to have this conversation. I know like a lot of men do experience domestic violence and abuse, physical abuse, and a lot of times they don't talk about it. So I think it's awesome that we can have this conversation and have a safe space where we can talk about this. And I hope
Absolutely.
the men who hear this, I hope you can listen to it, hear it, and yeah, like seek help. Again, you don't have to suffer by it.
Yeah.
You've heard it, Love Bay family. You do not have to suffer through this. And, this is one of the reasons why, this radio station, why this show exists, is to bring light to these really difficult topics that, we're not just going to bring this up usually over the dinner table during Thanksgiving or Christmas, but they're conversations that need to be had because, like you guys mentioned, right? Like there's so many that are out there suffering and they're afraid to talk about it.
Yeah.
So I just want us to jump into the tough stuff right off the bat, right? So when we're talking about domestic violence, what are we talking about?
Yeah. I think that's a good place to start because a lot of people don't even know what it means or what that looks like for men. What does it, when you say domestic, what are you really talking about?
What does it?
So when we talk about domestic violence, from a lot of men do experience this, and some men that I work with, even in therapy, are at the brunt of this. But to break it down in simple terms, what does it look like? It could be maybe emotional or psychological abuse, and that involves maybe belittling, humiliation, threats of doing something, threats of taking something away. It could also be physical abuse, assault, property destruction, maybe intimidation, keying their car, or maybe something they really cherish. So it could be that. It could also be financial control, maybe restricting access to some funds or money that they should have access to. It could be sabotaging their work, doing something to make their ability to do their work more difficult. It could also be control, maybe coercive control in the form of isolating them from friends and family, just trying to, or make them, or just kind of tarnish their reputation so that they isolate themselves, don't feel comfortable to go into those social circles, and then they can become in the cage of their own mind. It could be monitoring their movements, where they, it could also be maybe through false accusations, just accusing them of something, maybe even accusing them of being an abuser, projecting on them. So there are we know societally, most abuse are perpetrated towards women, statistically, but also we don't want to ignore the fact that men do experience abuse. So these are just some of the examples of ways where we see men who experience domestic abuse, and the instances are little examples of what it looks like. Yep.
Yeah. I think Kunle, I think one thing you did a solid for us all is to highlight that it's beyond just maybe physical. When we hear violence, when we hear abuse, we can think of the physicality of it, but it is all sorts of coercion, manipulation, isolation. It deals with financials, emotions, psychologically, right? And so just seeing that, one of the things I think is good about opening that up is a lot of people won't notice they're even in it as
Yeah.
well. They won't call it up.
Yeah.
I'm not in a domestic violence situation. I'm not being abused. And then we start to talk about what it is and the impacts of it. And I think that can open the space for people to be like, hey, this is me. And it's not shameful to be able to resonate, be like, hey, this is what I'm going through. It's actually a start of a
Mhm.
healing process. And as Felicia said, that you don't have to do this alone. So Kunle, I think you did us a solid of just opening up beyond just what we
100%.
think of the physicality of it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought that was like a great opener. Just talking about like the different forms of abuse. Um, and I think like one thing that I've had a female clients experience is even like sexual abuse as well. And
Yeah, right.
even just as they're like growing up in their teens, and that's something that we have as well. They usually don't feel comfortable talking about it, and there's not a safe space because a lot of times they get laughed at, or sometimes it's like, oh, she was beautiful, so yeah, like you probably wanted it, right? So I think these
Mhm.
conversations are important to have.
No,
Yeah.
100%. And it's powerful, Kunle. The way you're starting it off and just diving deeper into it is so much more. It impacts all areas of your life, and that's
Yeah,
the reality of it. And Josh, you mentioned sometimes you don't even know. But I think men and women who grow up in a home where they're experiencing violence, they unconsciously normalize it in their lives.
yes,
And so you have those blinders on, and you're like, wow, when someone actually shows you what's happening in your life, you're like, okay, I didn't know this. But
Mhm.
there's reasons why you're feeling that way. There's reasons why you're feeling things in your life. And this is going to help open that. This conversation is going to help open
Mm.
those doors. So, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I really like what you all said, especially Josh. You mentioned shameful. Yes, it can be shameful for a lot of men, and that shame makes us just hold it in and not
Mhm.
want to talk about it. We don't feel comfortable. I also like what you shared, Andrew, talking about sexual abuse.
Yes.
There's the culture like it doesn't matter if you should enjoy it. There's this expectation that's not abuse. You should. There's this expectation they should enjoy it always. It's a privilege.
Mhm.
And so,
Mm.
yeah, I think those are really, really important things to delve deeper into and to explore. So, actually, label it to identify,
Yes.
yes, this is
Mhm.
what I'm experiencing, and not explain it away, deny it. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a deep topic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think even on that, and this could be further in the conversation as well. I think some difficulty that men have is even if they're able to identify it, it's kind of like, well, so what? Like, that's in the past. It's fine. Like there is that probably that shame that comes over them of I don't want to expose this more. I don't want to, does it affirm that I'm weak or that like how could this happen to me? So it's better just be like, you know what, it is what it is that happened, and I'm moving on. But in terms of actually processing it and dealing with it and reaching out for support and talking to a trusted person about it, I think that's where men get stuck. So even if they're able to label it, it's the
Mm.
processing it that is definitely difficult as well.
Would you say that's one of the, you guys have obviously the hands-on experience. What would you say is the biggest hindrance? Is it the shame? Is it the acknowledgement? Is it the processing? What have you experienced?
Uh, just in therapy, what I have, the field that I've worked on, just talking about first, maybe fear of not being believed, fear of
Mm.
even when you label it like just said processing is difficult and saying it to someone sometimes we talked about it last time. We said men will just they're scared of the dog, you just touch the tip of it, so they share a little bit, and that little bit is not belief, they lock up the rest. They can't
Mhm.
even
Yes.
share they can't share the full story.
Yes.
So I think that fear of being believed holds a lot of people back from being able to express that. Also fear of seen as weak,
Yes.
Societally, we have these expectations that men are to be strong, men are
Yes.
to be certain ways, and to say you're a victim of something almost puts you sometimes like, are you really a man? So
Yeah.
yeah, fear of being believed,
Mhm.
also fear of being seen as weak can be some that comes to mind now.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's the lack of support that men feel, and that comes with shame and stigma and all these sorts of things. But it's like, if I reach out to these people, they're gonna laugh at me. If I reach out to this person, they're going to say that I'm weak. If I reach out to this person, they're not gonna believe me. And so I think it's that
Mm.
fear of lack of support that they feel. It's like, who's here to walk through this with me that actually understands it, right? Because it is such a
Yeah.
stigma. It can be a taboo conversation. It can be a conversation that gets belittled or condescended. It's like, wait, what? How are you a victim? You're the man, right? And so I think that lack of support is something that maybe
Mm.
leads to that sense of suppression, right? I'm just not going to talk about it. I'm not going to come forward, right? Even in the statistics in terms of Canada, less men come forward than women that come forward, right? Less men are talking about, here's what I've experienced. I'm coming forward. I'm telling my story. I'm sharing it. Um, and so that's the difficult part, is like, who's here with me, who's going to
Yeah.
support me, that actually understands.
Mm. Yeah.
I really wanna call out some of the stigmas tonight, especially
Hmm.
because I feel like there is this idea that because men are stronger
Mm.
physically, that they can't be physically abused.
Mm. Yeah.
But that is further from the truth.
Hmm.
All right, I dropped that. Go.
I think one thing that as you kind of look into it more, into statistics and study, and then you have personal experience, if you're a therapist, I think one of the things that comes forward is like that sense of, I don't want to be seen as the perpetrator. There's been that one where, you call and then maybe something gets twisted around, or
Mm.
law enforcement sees you, oh, you're the man, like, how could this how could this happen? And then somehow it's spun around on you, where you're now looked at as the perpetrator, but
Mm.
you're actually the victim, right? And so I think that's difficult, right? Like, you
Yeah.
you call, you actually build up that courage, as Kunle talked about, to say, hey, I'm going through this. And then, because it's not a thing that's really talked about, because there's that stigma, it's like, uh,
Mm.
you might end up in handcuffs, you might end up being the one on trial. And so I think that's a difficult piece that people experience, is like, I end up, in the hot seat when I'm the one that is actually the victim and needs support. But as a man, it's not seen that way, right? You're strong, you're tough, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
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 I
And
like to talk about it because, even though I obviously I'm the queen of the hour, holla. I've definitely had people close to me that have experienced this. And I mean, I'm talking about being hit, slapped,
Mhm.
scratched, have
Wow.
rubbing alcohol thrown on top of them after being
Mm.
scratched. Like,
Yeah.
really harsh things that you wouldn't want to do to your worst enemy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And yet, individuals are afraid to come forward because, again, I think that there's this idea of manhood. I mean, again, you guys are the men of the hour, the kings of the hour, but
Mhm.
like when you hear about that, like the fact that
Mm.
other men are experiencing, you know such harsh physical abuse, and they're afraid to come forward because of what society may think of them. Like, what do you guys say to that?
Usually with my clients, or even just people around me, I have to teach them what abuse actually is.
Mm.
So I first teach them like what abuse is, and then I help them to understand like what they're experiencing is actually abuse. Um,
Wow.
I remember having a conversation with someone, and they were telling me their wife was constantly hitting them all the time. And then
Oh,
she would
wow.
say, "You're a man, so you're strong enough to take it." Uh, and he just laughed it off. But he was always extremely, extremely angry.
Mhm.
So I had to explain to him, like, the abuse that you're experiencing within this relationship is causing that anger, because it's traumatic for you. And you might laugh it off because you're just like, oh, like I'm a man, I should be able to take it, and this is what you're hearing, and this is probably what you've heard your whole life. But it is abuse, and that's where the anger is actually coming from.
What's it like in that, to even maybe for that person specifically, to because I think of like what you said, your approach, right? I tell them what abuse is, and then I help them connect their experience to that, to show them like, hey, this is, you're actually being abused. I find that could be very validating of someone. It's not
Yes.
like you're leading them to be like, hey, this is, you're being harsh about it. This is what your experience, like, why don't you understand that? It's like, no, this is validating. Hey, your anger is there not because you're a bad person, or you're off the rails, or something's wrong with you. You're angry because this thing is actually happening to you, and it is happening to you.
Yeah.
And your anger finds a place because of these things you're experiencing. It just seems so validating to have someone like you, Andrew, who's able to have that tough conversation with people.
Yeah.
No, it is. I do help them to understand the trauma they're experiencing, and a lot of times they've experienced a similar trauma when they were younger. Like, but I think Mathew said earlier, like it's been normalized. So if someone's hitting them, if someone's mistreating them, it's like, oh, like I'm a man, I was a boy. This is normal. I'm supposed to be treated like this. So they don't feel comfortable creating those boundaries or saying like this is not okay for me to experience. And so that abuse continues. So like, I usually just like psychoeducate them, help them to understand what they're experiencing, and then from there, like help them to create boundaries. If needed, like a safety plan if they need to leave. Just things like that.
Yeah, it's good.
That's amazing, man. Based on, I guess, all of your experiences, how have the men received that? Is it, I'm sure the cases obviously vary, but is it more like a sense of relief and validation, or is it like, wow, like I didn't even know that this is what was happening to me for so many years? I guess, what have you experienced? What have you seen?
In some of my clients, what I've seen is initially, even when they come in and this is what I want to talk about, they're hesitant. Even with me, they're like, is Kunle going to judge me? They don't even feel free to really. It takes a while. It takes building trust before they can get to the depth of the story. So it's like trauma, something they carry, and a lot of them, they're big, macho, and wondering, is he gonna look at me differently? Is he gonna? Am I gonna be cut out of the men's circle in some way? So it takes a lot of safety, establishing safety, making them feel safe, and actually validating them as they share, and they share in bits and pieces, and being patient and validating and just supporting them through the journey. As we're talking earlier on, just mentioned, sometimes if these men call, you could be the one who end up in cuffs. I've had a number of clients who that has been the case, where they were locked up. They were locked up for real. They had to fight. So the systems, the police, can be used against those men. And it was used against them, and they were locked up. And they had to. So talking about losing your job, almost all this abuse, everything, being lied against, everything, and they were locked up for real. Lost access to their family, to their children, had to fight for years or months before the truth eventually comes up and they get released. But that trauma, that damage, it takes a lot. It takes a toll.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? It comes into those stigmas. It's embedded into society. I never forget. I remember watching. Do you remember a show where it was this very distinctive host? Everyone would know who he is. He always set up scenarios, and it would be like, "Why did you step in and do that?" I don't know if you recall, but they did a scenario where a woman kept hitting a man, and a man was like hitting a woman, and the scenario was insane. So the woman's hitting the man, and everyone walked by laughing. And as the man did it, they're like, everyone stepped in. And I remember hearing when the woman was hitting him, people were like, oh, what did he do? What did he do? And you see it in society that people just, once again, you're the man. It's okay to publicly abuse them, and people laugh it off. So scenarios like that, scenarios with trying to seek help and you end up in cuffs, it shows you this conversation has to be had. We need to
Mm-hmm.
continue to have this to break the stigmas. Once again, all the conversations we have, we're trying to break those stigmas, get the word out there. So if a man actually takes the risk to say, look, I need help, I mean, we need it in society to be like, okay, let's actually find out what's happening. Let's see if we can actually
Mm-hmm.
help this person versus like, okay, are you abusing the woman? And the man ends up in cuffs, which is
Mm-hmm.
crazy to hear that, right? You've
Yeah.
seen it happen.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think what I see, it kind of aligns with what Andrew was talking about, is that I think there's an awareness of the clients that I had that abuse is happening, but where the kind of stuckness happens is the downplaying, right? They often, Andrew
Mm,
talked about it as laughing it off. There's a sense of downplaying, and it's like, yeah, this happens, so what? Like, da 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 da. I just laugh it off, or I just suck it up, or I just put up with
mm,
it, right? For the sake of the kids or for the sake of whatever. And so there's this downplaying of what they're going through. And then, as you said, Andrew, that it as we get deeper into conversation, it connects to their emotions. It connects to
yeah.
the anxiety they've been feeling, or the burnout, the sadness, the depression. And so we open that up to see, hey, this is how much this is impacting you, and the downplaying, it starts to go away. It starts to be like, wow, I'm really affected by this.
Mm,
Wow, like how do we process this? And so I think that's something that I've seen more often than not, is the downplaying of it. Like, yeah, it happened. Okay, yeah, it is happening still. Whatever, right? I just have to keep going. I just have to keep moving forward. But
mm,
that's what we want to help people with, is that we don't want you to have to downplay it,
yeah.
right? And I guess my question to all of you is like, how do we help men not downplay what they're experiencing? Maybe some of the listeners don't want to hear an answer to that question. How do we help men not downplay what they've experienced or are experiencing?
Yeah. Maybe one of the ways we could help is to identify what downplaying does, how
Yeah, it's
downplaying
good.
hurts,
Yeah.
how it stores those emotions in, how it keeps you captive, how it affects just your sense of self, your self esteem,
Mm,
your identity, how it brings in depression. So, downplaying, yeah, you don't ruffle the feather, but also it keeps those emotions in. But talking about it, yes, it can be difficult. It can bring a lot of shame, like we've talked about. Would I be believed? But finding even one safe person to talk to about it can bring a lot of liberation, freedom. So by examining the pros and cons of downplaying, maybe that might be a place to
It's
start.
good.
Let us see
yeah.
the damage downplaying does and the relief and benefit we can get from finding at least one safe person
Hmm.
who can believe, and just
Yes.
start from one. Yeah.
And yes, Lavina, men needs validation for sure. Thank you so much. And yes, our chat is open. And, we also have a telephone line. Please call in if you're too shy to type into the chat, because I think, again, we need to be having this conversation. So you can text us at 437-778-3299. Sorry. So please, now. So please reach out to us in the chat, or also via text, or you can call us locally. What is the risk of keeping this in and not talking about it, or
Hmm.
experiencing this over a long period of time and suppressing that?
Hmm. I think that I can I'll give one. Maybe we can share the answer. But I remember reading this book, The Hidden Cost of Stress, by Gabor
Mm,
Mate, I think, and just what stress can do to our nervous system, to our bodies, to our immune system, to our overall health. And so when we, as Kunle talked about, as when we hold this in, right? Yes, I'm not ruffling the feathers of it, but I'm suppressing. I'm holding this in. That over time, what that does is it builds up adrenaline and cortisol, and that affects inflammation, and that affects your organs, your heart, your
mm,
your your lungs, your kidneys. It affects your blood pressure. Holding in this kind of stuff and experiencing that stress without that emotional release or expression, without that being able to soothe or regulate. There's so many hidden costs of that, because it is stress building in your body. That trauma is staying with you, and so holding this in, you might even, someone even listening now might find themselves, they're going to the doctor and their blood pressure is high, and they're having issues with this, and they're gaining weight, and their mood has been down, and we might just think, hey, that's getting old, that's life. But we have to make that connection between what trauma and stress does to our bodies, and that abuse to us that we hold in and we can't share, and we suppress, that turns into stress. And so yeah, my recommendation is, like, find your safe place, find your support. This needs to get out for the sake of your health. But again, we want to do this alongside of you, of opening up these conversations, so that you have a place to be able to share and to come out, because I know that that could be hard. It could be hard. Okay, yes, this is hurting my physicality and all this kind of stuff, but it's still too hard to share. I still can't. There's too much of a risk. So I think simultaneously educating of what can happen, but also opening up those spaces can really help. But yeah, stress is a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find you can be stuck in fight, flight, freeze. Like Josh said, you can develop all sorts of illnesses. Um, and yeah, like eventually, a lot of us will get to a place where it's like, this, I don't feel good in my body anymore. And what happens eventually is that you feel like you need to escape those experiences. So it's like drinking, sleeping around, different things to kind of cope with like those emotions, those feelings that you're experiencing inside, or just like even that numbness. Like I don't even want to get out of bed to go to work. Like I'm so tired, I'm so drained, I don't want to do this anymore. And then obviously, eventually, if you constantly feel like that, there's a suicidal ideation, right? And so like I think it's important to have those conversations, because you have to remember, like as you're experiencing this, you're quiet and you're not speaking up, there's so many people around you who love you. So if you make that decision to take your life, your children, your mother, your father, your cousins, your friends, there's still a whole group of people that are hurting when they lose you, right? So I think it's so important to speak up for yourself, get help, go to a therapist, whatever you need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's tough, and a lot of people kind of hold it in as a result of that, because they don't want to experience that. Shame keeps them bound. And when people have shame, especially when we talked about maybe the police system, where you feel that you're not going to be believed, where you could be incarcerated, all that keeps us down and can make men feel hopeless. Just there's no way out. There's nothing. Society normalizes it from the experience Mathew shared from the show. Yeah, it's no big deal. People are walking by and laughing. So that communicates something to someone who's experienced. Like, nobody's going to take you serious. Nobody's going to listen to you. And that can bring about hopelessness. And we feel hopeless. Like Andrew said, it could lead to those suicidal ideations. But we are having this conversation today to let you know that we see you, we believe you, we validate what you're experiencing is trauma. It is abuse. We're naming it so that you know you're not alone. And there is no shame in speaking up. So that's what we're doing in this conversation, normalizing and helping people have this conversation, and also for people to learn. Some people might have thought it's okay to eat a guy like that, or some of the things we mentioned, the financial control. No, those things can be abusive. So let's stop. Men have skin. We have blood flowing. Men are not stones. Men feel things. They can take it off.
Yeah. On this topic, I want the male listeners to know that when God created man and you were formed, God said, it's good. That means you were created in the image of God. You are worthy to be heard. You are loved by more people than you know, spiritually and physically. if you do not take risks, then change won't happen. Eventually, the weight becomes too heavy to bear. And so you have to step out. You have to take a risk, because this community is here for a reason. And you may not even realize it, but there are friends, there are brothers, there are uncles, there are people who may have gone through it and hit it. And for you to come out, not only will you open doors for you to change, but you may open doors for other people as well.
Yeah.
And we are all people that suffer in some way, and having someone to build a foundation with, having someone to express and be vulnerable and break down and cry, I think it's going to release and change your life. I think, that's my word of encouragement. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, you're worthy. I think that's what I've taken out of what you said, Mathew. You're worthy.
yeah,
And
100%.
I love that you talked about, sometimes it takes a risk. And
Yeah.
obviously, finding the courage to share at least a bit, even if it's just a bit of your story. I know it's hard, but you're not meant to carry it alone either. And, when it comes to abuse and trauma, loneliness often comes up for so many people,
Yeah.
right? And so you want someone to help at least take a little bit of that edge off.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
when you open up, you don't realize that
Mm.
you're opening doors for other people as well.
Yeah.
Right?
I think, I think a big thing kind of connecting a lot of this is teaching men that vulnerability is okay. Right. And I know vulnerability is a big topic, but being able to share, being able to express, setting up those places of vulnerability, even proactively, so that when people do need to step out and share, they know men can be a safe place to share, that I can go to my brothers and have this support. They can receive my vulnerability. They can help bear this burden with me. Right. I think vulnerability in the sometimes when I challenge my male clients to be vulnerable, it's difficult. It takes multiple sessions, right? You can see their nonverbals getting uncomfortable when it comes to vulnerability. But to see them step into it, to see them grow in being able to express emotions, and to even express the emotions that we would feel like oh, I'm sad, I'm hurting, I'm I'm going through this thing and I'm scared, right? These emotions that we might, in society might look at men and be like, well, you're not supposed to feel those, right? You're supposed to, or if you do, get rid of them quick. You're supposed to suck it up. But I think creating spaces where men can be vulnerable and it not diminish their masculinity, it actually just makes them more holistically who they are. I think this is what we need. We need to open up spaces of vulnerability so that men, when they're experiencing things like domestic violence and trauma, they already have spaces and people and safety that they can go to.
Yeah. 100%.
Even as we talk about this topic, I think that one of the things that come to mind is that behind every man is an inner child.
Yeah.
And obviously behind every woman is an inner child. So for all the sisters out there, they're like, what about me? Don't worry, we're not forgetting about you, but today is Barbershop Tuesday, right? If we can strip back the layers of the age, the muscle, and we boil it all down, each person has an inner child. And would we want that child to experience what we laugh off today? Thinking about your example, Mathew, of someone hitting the man and be like, ha ha ha, what did he do?
Yeah.
We wouldn't do that. We'd be like,
Yeah.
why are you hitting this child?
Yeah.
Right? We would actually step in. And I think that if we can actually begin to shift our perspective, that not only are men human, but they all have a tender spot, and also there's
I think that
someone's
takes
son.
that vulnerability, right? Not to cut you
Yeah.
off,
No,
but
not at all.
I think it takes that vulnerability to even get to the place where they can acknowledge that inner child and then
Yes.
process, right? That vulnerability. You could be so closed up that you hear inner child and it's like, what the heck is that? I'm a man, I'm grown, right? But it's true. I inner child work is some of my favorite things, and it don't matter how tough you are, how old you are, there is that inner child. It just is, right?
Yeah,
And so I think again, sorry to cut you off, but I
not
think
at
that
all.
vulnerability, even you know, seeps into that conversation of yeah, there is this inner child that you can advocate for and protect and love and care for, and it takes vulnerability to be able to get to that place. So yeah, yeah.
So for listeners who are wondering, what the heck is an inner child? Who's gonna break it down? Break it down. Break it down.
I can, sure.
Take it away, Josh.
Dedication.
Yeah, no. I think the inner child, and there's many ways to look at it, but some of them, the way that I would explain it is those people that have experienced trauma at a certain age that sometimes people will their body remembers that, right, and it draws back to that. It's activated when they go through different hurts and in life. And so some people, they talk about a 9-year-old self, they talk about a 12-year-old self, they talk about a 17-year-old self, and it's that part of them at that age where emotions got froze at that point, right? And so every time they're activated through something similar, their body actually goes back into that
Yes.
place where they felt like when they were a 9-year-old, right? And so there is this vulnerable child. It's all dealing with our memory systems. I would love to go into the neuroscience and everything of it, but it's dealing with our memory systems, our amygdala, our hippocampus,
Yeah.
and I think that because we all have a beautiful nervous system, beautiful makeup, and memories. Again, not just visual ones, but the way our bodies can remember sensory memory. It's the fact that our bodies will remember those painful points when we're younger, and that's why we experience these times where it's like you go up against a task and it feels like a mountain. You feel like, why do I feel like I'm like 17 again? Why do I feel like I'm this again? And again, it's those emotions and those experiences when you were younger. And so to have an inner child is basically connecting with those emotions and memories as a younger person. And so what we can do is we can advocate and we can heal, we can consolidate those memories, we can love that younger part of ourselves that's still holding on to that trauma. So I love inner child work because the more people I work with, and even myself, I would say mine is a 9. I notice 9, 12, and 17. Those are the ages that come up for me. I feel reduced to those sometimes, and I try to advocate and be vulnerable and love myself. But I think this is a huge conversation to have with people. And once you start to talk about it with people, they start to realize, oh yeah, I felt that before. Oh wow, I have an inner child. Oh wow, I can love my inner child. And here's the coolest thing. I'm speaking on it. Here's the coolest thing. When people start to love their inner child in ways that inner child has never been loved. So that inner child, at that experience, you went through that hurt, that trauma, the neglect, whatever, um, and you didn't get support, you didn't get love, you didn't get care at that time, right? When I see people come to therapy, they start to grow and they start to heal, they start to actually be able to provide for that child what they didn't get. And to see them come into confidence and strength and healing because of that, it's just amazing. So inner child work, you're never too grown for it. You're never
Yeah.
too you're never
100%.
too manly for it. You're never too far gone for it.
I love that.
Get to know that inner child.
Did
You
you
almost,
see Josh's inner child spark when he was
yes,
talking
it
about the
sparked
inner
up,
child?
right?
That's that joy.
I felt it. It was
That joy.
infectious. No, it's good. You
Yeah.
almost set yourself free, not just in the
Yeah.
present,
Yeah.
but in that inner child. You set
Yeah.
yourself free by going back there,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you overcome things that you experience then, but
Yeah.
you're experiencing it now, and now's your time to release it. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
powerful.
not great.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I love what you were saying, Josh. Like, I think like
Amazing.
a lot of times that inner child, it's your inner voice. It tells
Yeah.
you that you're not safe, you're not protected, you can't trust nobody, you're not good enough. And it's because of the trauma that you experience as a child, and then that even though you like work out, you get bigger, like whatever, it stays in you, like regardless. And so like
Yeah.
even when you get older, you experience some type of abuse. It's like I'm still not protected, I'm not safe, I'm not good enough. And you try to hide those emotions, but like you end up getting like really angry, or you become really numb. Like there's all these different things that can happen, right? Um, and
And
I think,
oftentimes, can I jump in there for a
yeah,
second?
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Just on up. Oftentimes, we carry into adulthood our coping and defense mechanisms of that child at that time, right? So if that child dealt with those things as ways of anger, right, and explosive anger, acting out, that kind of stuff. You'll often notice that when you're activated or triggered, not only do those memories and emotions come up from when you're 9 or 10 or 4, but so do the coping mechanisms. And so people will be like, I don't know why I just get explosive anger. I don't know why I feel this way. And it has to do with that inner child. And as we advocate for that inner child and teach ourselves ways to cope that serve us better than it did when we were 9, it's such
Yeah.
a healing process. But yeah, sorry to jump in, but you were
No, that's
talking
okay.
about yeah.
No, I completely agree with you. Like again, I remember having a conversation with someone again, and they had like a lot of anger towards women. So we actually started discussing it and everything, and then we found that when he was younger, um, there was a group of women that would make fun of him every day when he went to school,
Wow.
and he didn't have any power over it. He just kind of stand there and cry. And so like as we like broke it down, he started understanding why that anger was there, because it ruined his relationships. He didn't feel safe. He didn't feel protected. Even if someone was joking around with him, he would get like really angry because it
Yeah,
brought him back to that experience in his past.
exactly.
And so like what I actually did with him, and only do this in therapy, don't do this anywhere else. But yeah, I just had him. I obviously did some coping techniques, taught him how to like ground himself so he felt safe, and then we just imagined him in that situation with those women there, and he was able to imagine himself walking himself as an adult, walking himself over to his child self and taking his the child away, his childlike self away.
Oh wow.
He just started crying and he felt warmth, and like that pain from that experience went away from him. So the rest of the sessions he wasn't dealing with it anymore, and he just felt that peace. But it's because he didn't have, when that thing happened, he didn't have any adults or parents who spoke to him about it to help him through what he was going through at that time. And so like I think therapy is really good because it helps you to reparent, right? Like your therapist they're not your actual parent, but they become like a parent in that moment. It can be so healing and so freeing for you.
Yeah.
We have
That's
some comments, guys. So
Yeah, a bunch.
Regina said some women are good listeners and do create a safe space.
Yes.
Dudley says thanks for the breakdown with regards to the inner child. Miss
Powerful.
Crazy Licious was driving and said it was painful because she was commenting out loud to herself. She says, think of your inner child like a part of you, a younger version of yourself, still living inside, like a little kid who remembers how things were taught, felt, and experienced growing up. Childhood trauma equals living in survival mode in
So
adulthood.
So
And then
true.
we also have someone from Brampton, Adam from Brampton, who said this is a conversation our community needs. Thanks for the topic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adam. We also have, it is not easy for men to discuss this topic, even amongst friends. And this is from Keisha in Guyana. And then we have men can't complain because they may be mocked as being weak. And this is from Odelia in LA, USA.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do we connect this inner child, this trauma? How do we connect this back to the conversation of domestic violence?
Yeah, that's a good one. How do we connect it? The analogy I see with the inner child in conjunction with what has been shared is when we face trauma, we know of the term the deer with the headlights. You're
Yes.
driving, the dead's right there, and then the eyes are open, kind of freeze. When we experience trauma, it's almost like we freeze in that state. If it's 7 year,
Yes.
12-year-old, you freeze.
Mm.
And it's almost like you don't grow. You grow as a person, you get bigger, but that 12, that age where you experience that is kind of stuck. And it's important as an adult to be able to go back and relive those moments. I hear about Gabo Mate's experience, talking about just how he was abandoned as a child.
Right.
And
Mm.
now as
Wow.
an
Yeah.
adult, traveling, he's speaking everywhere, he's well known. And then he flies back to his base in BC, and his wife is not there to pick him at the airport on time. And he acts like a child, kind of moping, like a baby.
Mm. Wow.
So that inner child, you're kind of stuck, and it takes being able to recognize that and be able to heal that, and just comfort that little child and bring that child to where you are today. So how does this connect? It connects because often when men experience this abuse, it's almost like we're stuck also. We're stuck in hopelessness, stuck in not knowing where to go, stuck in how to process it, how to make sense of it. And we need to be kind to ourselves. We don't need to be
Good.
hard on ourselves. We need to be kind to ourselves. We need to verbalize, label, identify, and we need to find ways to comfort that pain that we're going through,
Mm,
whatever stage we experience that pain, that trauma, and begin to find ways to navigate forward, to heal, to step out of that box, to step out of that cage, to step out of that situation that holds you bound and be able to find your voice again and build your sense of identity, build your confidence, build support that helps you to actually thrive and heal.
yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's powerful. I think that's such
Very powerful.
a powerful connection back into what we're talking about. Um, Felicia, did you want to? Oh, there it comes up there.
There
It
you go.
comes. So let's hear some practical tips. Miss Crazylicious is asking,
Yes.
how can we reframe or teach men that their negative experiences and inner child is a valid voice, something worth addressing instead of suppressing, especially where they grew up around a lot of toxic masculinity?
Mhm.
Hmm.
This is where I find community comes in, right?
Mm,
As
Yeah.
as Andrew talked about, there is an aspect of inner child work that deals with this sense of reparenting. Reparenting is this idea of building attachments of love and safety, a secure base. And so, as I think of community, I think of old men, I think of young men, I think of father to son, I think of grandfather to grandchild, grandfather. I think of brother to brother, cousin to cousin. I think of communities where we can actually have these conversations, and love and support and validate. As we begin to do that, what happens is that inner child within us also starts to feel that sense of safety, and maybe they can start to explore and express. And if we tie this into this idea of trauma and domestic violence, that as we have these communities that are creating this sense of safety and security and love, we're able to connect with the deeper parts of ourselves in vulnerability, and because we have that trust built, we have that sense of, oh, I resonate and connect with safety, so let me actually be vulnerable, no matter how tough I was taught to be or how tough I think I am. Let me connect with that vulnerability because I have people here right in front of me. So I think in community, it looks like modeling it. It looks like opening up. It looks like that same thing you get from a parent, that love and safety. This is from attachment theory, that secure base, that safe haven, that we can actually open that up in community. As I said, brother to brother, friend to friend, cousin to cousin, son to father, grandfather to grandson. I think this is something that we need to open up. So practical tips is let's start building communities of safety, of security and love for men to be vulnerable, not shamed, like they're not masculine anymore, because they're opening up. No, this takes courage. This takes
Yeah.
strength. This takes leadership. We talk about that inner child. You're leading. You're caring. You're providing for. That's still what we think of as a man. And so step into that vulnerability, into those communities. Let's create them in ways that break down the stigma, but also open up that space of safety and security.
Yeah.
Powerful, man.
You know, there's been a question at the back of my mind, and I've been wanting to ask it for a long time. So I'm going to just ask it. Okay. So we usually talk about domestic violence against women, right? Obviously, that's an important topic as well, but we're talking about men and domestic violence tonight. Why do some men stay? We usually talk about the reasons why women stay in abusive domestic relationships, but why do men stay?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mm,
Good question.
it's a powerful question.
Yeah, that's a good question. Why do men stay? One thing that
Yeah.
comes to mind is first, maybe the system, the way the systems are built. Going through the process, we talked about situations where the man would call for help and he's the one in cuffs, he's the one arrested, he's the one locked up. There are also situations around custody disputes where the man feels like he's going to lose access to his children. So men stay because of children. They feel powerless. They feel
Yep.
like they don't have a voice. They're not believed. So maybe not wanting to lose access to their children. Also, we don't have lots of support like just mentioned at the beginning. We have lots
Yeah.
of women's shelters. We don't have similar shelters for men. So there's not a lot of resources, support that men can access that can actually help them step out of that situation and be able to care for themselves in that way. So these are just some of the, but there's so many reasons why men stay, why men feel stuck and feel like there's nowhere to go. And also society, some men's friends, society also feels uncomfortable. There are certain emotions we feel comfortable with men expressing. A
Yes.
man coming to talk about being abused doesn't sound like things that people will find really palatable or want to listen to. It makes people uncomfortable. So even that makes men just shut up and keep it in and just stay and just figure it
Just
out.
deal with it.
Deal with it. Yeah. Because you're gonna make other people uncomfortable in some way, is what people think by talking about that. But we are creating that space. It's not
I'm wondering if Miss Crazalicious is a therapist or a social worker or something.
I know. I saw that. I was like, wait a second.
It's good.
Emotional dependence, trauma bonds, and toxic relationship patterns apply to men as much as women. I think you know, she has a point there of, you know, we hear of that term. I don't know how accepted it is nowadays still, but that term of Stockholm syndrome. You have bonds, you build a sense of love and connection with that person who just happens to also be your abuser. And so there is this push and pull, right? In attachment, it's called disorganized. The person that is your favorite, your that you seek love from the most is also the one that can hurt you the most. And so there is this confusion of what to do, right? And I think also Felicia had already brought up a point of loneliness. It's lonely. It's lonely to think of, okay, here's the implications that if I come forward, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to lose my family. You know, the kids are going to be impacted, and this is going to happen, and I'm going to have to start over again. What if I can't find another partner? What if this happens? What if they don't want someone who's divorced? What if this? Like, there's this sense of a real loneliness that can come with this, right? I think the unknown as well, right? Because it's not something that maybe many people have experienced, and statistically, in terms of men, that it's like, well, what if the courts, what if they rule with the mother? What if now I only have weekend access to these kids I love so much, right? Are we gonna, you know, we're gonna have to split up and sell the house, but then what if this happens, and what if this happens, and now this, and what if I need dual income because, you know, I can't support my kids on my own, and you know, and now I might have to move. Like, what if I have to move back home with my parents? I'm grown, I can't do that. And so there's all sorts of implications and unknowns that come with this that would keep men just being like, you know what, I'm weighing the risks and cost analysis, and I might just suck it up and just keep living like this. Yeah, because the risk can seem so high. And I think maybe, Kunle, that's why you talked about really talking about the risks, right? The risks
Yeah.
of downplaying and holding it in and that kind of stuff. And I think that will help men be like, oh, okay, which thing is actually more risky? And then as we get more support for men to actually walk through this, maybe they can deal with the unknown. Maybe they will be like, oh, you know what, like I have a worker that can actually help me through what these actual implications to my life are going to be, and to make sure that I'm okay.
Yeah. I think, just to expand on both of what you spoke about, I think a lot of men fear being vilified. And in most cases, it does happen. There's a lot of shame. The weight is heavy. And we are in a system where I heard a stat recently where 70% of divorces are initiated by women. This is not a knock to women, but a lot of men will hold it in and suck it up. And this applies to just across the board in terms of opening up, in terms of being vulnerable. This is a layer of vulnerability with so many unknowns, so much fear, and you're going into potential scenarios that you're like, I don't even know how I'm going to deal with it. Just expand on what you said, Josh. What's going to happen with the kids? The kids are going to be impacted. And obviously, it is a vulnerability you can't hide.
Yeah.
And so, do I even want to open up that to even my family, even to my loved ones, friends, and the world's going to know?
Yeah.
Got divorced.
Yeah.
And society doesn't really care about it. You initiated it. You're the bad guy. Why'd you leave? Why'd you impact your kids? That's things you hear, right? And then you start to hear, oh, he left the marriage. He's a deadbeat dad. You hear all these things. So not only is it in the marriage now, you being a father is impacted in some capacity. So, I mean, yeah.
We have a comment from Larson from Budapest, Hungary. And he says, or they say, hey guys, in some cultures, this is non existent. It is the other way around because they accept men as being superior, so it is not there. Great topic. What would you guys say to this comment?
Yeah, I think absolutely. There are certain cultures where this is not seen at all. Men are the ones who perpetrate the abuse, and there's almost no power, no. There's barely any opportunity for the woman to perpetrate any abuse towards the man, where men dominate. So yes, there are certain cultures where this is true, where it's unseen. There's no way man just holds all the power. It's not so in our Western world here. But yeah, different things apply in different societies.
Yeah.
But we still want to just speak to even the few who are experiencing this so that they know that their experience is valid.
Yes.
That's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
No. So
We've been given 20 minutes, guys. Well, technically 18 now. So, hey!
Yeah. I was wondering, what kind of roles can our communities play to help men who are dealing with this? Josh mentioned just building community. What other things, what other ways can people, something that comes to mind, I know something I've told one of my clients in the past is Reddit. You can post anonymously if you're scared of people lashing out on you. Post anonymously on Reddit. Just practice talking about it. See what people respond. They don't know you. Just practice.
it out there.
Yeah. And maybe that will give you momentum to speak to someone face to face. But I'm wondering, are there any other things that we can do as communities or ways to deal with this?
I think of more in this social services, social work kind of category to see, and maybe especially in small towns, like, right, I think of the small town I grew up in, and just I don't think there's any, like, you have pregnancy programs, you have a women's shelter, you have a mom's group, you have all sorts of things for women. And this isn't to slight women or create a dichotomy, it's just to say that I see a lack when it comes to men. And so what message does that give off? That gives off that, oh, men don't need the support in these areas, right? And so I think having more of those social programs, men's groups that are people that are experiencing domestic violence, anonymous groups where you can get together. I think like groups that can provide men with temporary lodging or whatever kind of thinking of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the like essential needs that they can provide for men as they're going through this process. I think having a group, maybe even of lawyers, to help men pro bono or some donations to cover cost. I think these are the things that can really help. It's in those essential need categories of support, again, those essentials. And so I'm thinking more in those social service categories, at least when we're talking about our community. And this might just look like someone hearing this and being like, hey, it doesn't have to be you don't have to create a whole business or anything like that, but to at least start these things, to spark these conversations, to be like, hey, I'm putting in the anonymously in the buy and sell or group of my small town that, hey, I rented out to this space from here to here. It is anonymous, it is confidential, ensuring that for people so that this space can be had for those people. So yeah, I'm really thinking of those because I know one thing that really stops men from accessing community, or anyone accessing community, is the lack of specific program for them or
100%.
resource. So.
And I think starting, in your own home, starting with family, starting with close friends. I've done that with a group of cousins and friends and my brother, and where we meet every couple of weeks to just talk, get it out. And I think it's one of the easiest ways to get started, but definitely branch it out. Some of the best things that have been created came from pain. And so there's so many people that go through things, and it's not really using your pain, but you're healing by helping others. And I think starting at home can be an easy way to start that community. Get together and get the elders involved. Let's see if you can open them up as well. Uncles, your father is willing to join. Brothers, cousins, friends, start there and say, we need to start to bring more people in. And I think that's I have you'll meet my business partner, Gavin. We meet every Friday morning to pray. And I say, you know what? We got to start opening this up to other like-minded people. And so it starts starts within your home, and then you could branch out 100%. Yeah.
I think that speaks to the idea of brotherhood, right? Which you guys have mentioned in other episodes.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree with all of you. I think it's important to have that brotherhood in that community. And I find because I have like family, friends, mentors that I speak to when I'm dealing with certain things. I can call and talk to. I think for a lot of men, they don't have that. Like even recently, I think maybe 2 weeks ago, I was speaking to one of my friends who's a pastor, and he said that even within his community, they don't know how to deal with specific traumas. They kind of either ignore it, or they expect these men to just be like, okay, you're strong, you're grown, you're an adult, just like you don't need to talk about this right now. But it's different for the women that come across, because it's like, oh, okay, I'm sorry you went through this. Like that's a horrible experience. But for a lot of the men, they don't experience that soft love. A lot of times it's like, okay, you're gonna get this tough love, and you just need to man up and keep it moving. And what we were talking about earlier, you have to recognize that these men are coming to you, but they're not coming to you as grown men. They're coming to you as that inner child, that little boy. And so just imagine yourself, if a little boy came to you and spoke to you about the traumas they're experiencing, you're going to be like, yo, you okay? Like, let me sit with you in that pain. But then when they're a grown man, it's just like, yo, get over it. It's fine. Right? And that doesn't help them. Doesn't help them at all. And so I think like even our communities, our spaces, sometimes it's good to allow therapists to come in. And I know there's probably some pastors that might be listening to this. I'm not trying to insult you, but you're not equipped for this type of work. Like you are not equipped for this type of work. And so like you can get training, but you can't do the same things that therapists can do. So if you can, bring other therapists in so that they can help you and teach you how to walk with some of these people in their pain, and then have these numbers, have these different groups that you can send them to so they can get the help that they need.
Yeah.
So powerful.
Powerful.
What would you guys say to listeners tonight that may know of a loved one or a friend that is experiencing domestic violence, and maybe even their children, maybe their son might be experiencing domestic violence? Like, what would you say to them tonight? How do they support their loved one?
The ways to support, I would say, first, to have that safe space to listen without judgment. Sometimes you meet people say, oh, yeah, this is a safe space, no judgment. But the moment something comes out of your mouth, they actually judge. So if you want to be that space, no judgment, make sure you're keeping to that no judgment.
Yeah.
Open.
And it's not we listen and we don't judge. It's not
Yeah.
that, okay?
Yeah.
That's actually practice it. And the person who is sharing will feel it if it's a safe space. So
yes.
listen, create that safe space. Listen, just hear. The more you hear, the more they can share. They test you. They give you a little bit. Your reaction time is even more is going to come out. So we want to be able to create that safe space for them to even voice it out, for us to comfort them. Yes, like I said, they come as that little child, that inner child. So you want to be able to comfort that inner child and not dismiss or term them as narcissistic or lying. You want to just listen. So that's one of the greatest gifts. I met with one man, just my last client. I was working at the hospital today and really touched me. And just the last client in his 70s, and we just had I just assessed him and did everything. But after that, I just listened. I was there. Okay, do you want to hear my history? Yeah, tell me. And I spent time talking to him. And I was like, thank you. You're the first person who actually listened to me. He's been admitted in the hospital for 2 weeks. He's in discharge today. That really touched me. I was like, okay. So let's just listen. When you listen, the person feels it. They feel safe. And he gives them some comfort. So let's listen. Let's have that safe space.
I think a big thing that comes up with that in terms of listening is, and it fits in with actually Miss Crazelish's comment here, is don't give up on them. Sometimes it is a process. We hear the same thing with grief and trauma, that it's non-linear. Like it can we can sometimes get impatient with people's like, oh, why don't you just see that? Like, you just need to do these things. I think we need to have that sense of patience and not give up on them. Sometimes we will give up on people when we see that back and forth. Remember, there is a safety of that person, but they can also be their biggest threat. And you know, it's not so black and white. And so we might just want to rush in and do all these things that we think are best for this person, but we actually need to come in and listen to actually see what this person needs, to step into that. If they falter, or if, like, you know, let's say I'm trying to support them this way and they show me like 3 times, recognize it is that little child. Recognize they are going through something. Don't give up on them. Have that sense of patience. Again, as you start to build that sense of safety, they start to build that rapport and trust with you, right? But this is a very, very vulnerable time for them, very scary time for them, very unknown and maybe uncharted territory for them. And so if it doesn't look perfect in terms of healing and safety, don't give up on them, because if you do, it just perpetuates the same thing, that, hey, no one's here, I have to do this alone, and then they close up. So there is that sense of listening, but remembering that it's a process, and you need to show up with love and safety and a flexibility in your approach, to really, really be there for them how they need you.
I second that, definitely. I think listening is the key aspect here. And don't listen to speak. Listen to understand where the person's coming from. And even if you're not fully aware of the details and the magnitude of this topic, just listen. Let them speak, let them get it out, and let them know that you're there to support them. It can just start with a conversation. You know what? let's talk tomorrow if you need me. Just reach out. Even if you don't understand, just listen. I think listening is the key for sure. And listen to their needs. And if they start to speak up and say, you know what, I was thinking about maybe calling this line or reaching out to someone for support, see how you can support them with that. Just ask them, how can I help you? And I think feeling heard, feeling like, man, I actually have someone here with me, and you open those doors, you're going to be their source of release, and then you'll be able to help them eventually break out of it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I always like to bring it to the kiddies and the parents. How do we parent our boys in a way that protects them down the line? I mean, can we ever truly protect our children from hard things? But at least their way of thinking about this topic.
Yeah. I have clients that very much, because I do think vulnerability is a huge piece, right? I do think,
Yeah.
emotional expression, being able to know that someone is safe. So I have clients who are fathers, and these fathers are so good at being a safe place and person, and a place to express for their children, that those children now have a reference point that, hey, people can be safe. Hey, there are spaces. I can be vulnerable. I can share about these things. I can express my emotions. And so that if things do happen to them, let's say, we're not talking about domestic violence at that point, but let's say we're talking about bullying on the playground. Instead of coming home to your dad and your dad be like, yo, suck it up. Like, what are you doing? Toughen up, right? You got to toughen up. That young boy can express to their dad, hey, I'm scared, or hey, I'm feeling this, and the dad can receive them, be a safe place. That thing that Kunle said, no judgment, not just, hey, there's
Yes.
no judgment, and then don't follow through. No, there's no judgment. Please, tell me. And that child now doesn't even have to be prompted to go to their parent, to their dad, to their mom. They just go because they know it's safe. And so when they go through
Yeah.
something, when they're older, they're able to already have a reference point, and discernment and wisdom on how to find those people that they can open up, that are safe, that they can share. So if they're going through something as serious as domestic violence and the trauma with that they know there's places where they can share. That's just one aspect. What do you guys think in terms of, you have the kind of opening that place for vulnerability and expression, but what are maybe some other ones?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I was thinking of in addition to that is just like expressing our emotions, having that sense of safety, having building young boys with healthy self-esteem and with
Yes.
confidence, knowing that they are enough the way they are. So that when something out of the ordinary happens, when something contrary to the experience, they can like, this is not okay, and they can have the confidence to speak up about that.
Yes.
So yes, we want to raise our boys, young ones, with lots of love, lots of support, lots of hugs, lot of
Mhm.
tender love, yeah, and everything, so that they know what the real deal is. And
Yes.
when something seems fishy, they can spot it and say no. They can step away, or they can talk to someone. This feels weird, and they can just
Mhm.
recognize something is off.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's what comes to mind.
No, I agree. I think uh, I like the idea of seeing things that they go both ways. Because if you train up your child to be in a safe environment, to feel comfortable to express, they will grow up always being that person, being
Yeah.
comfortable to express how they feel, what they need. But it also transforms you as the parent.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so it flows both ways because you have that open communication. And when things do happen, things out of the ordinary, it gives them an opportunity to be like, you know what, mom, dad, I feel this way. You know what, let's talk about it.
Mhm.
You dive deeper with them. You grow as a parent to, how to communicate with your child, but you also know how to communicate and listen to other people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's development on both ends. And once again, as you begin to interact with other people, or you have more kids, you set that environment. So for people who have one child years in, then you have another child, guess what? That older brother or sister can be there for that child. You'll be able to be there for your kids in a more powerful capacity.
Mhm.
And so I think that's key there.
Yeah.
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 I think there's age appropriate. There like a lot of there's age appropriate storybooks like in children's authors that are just on the rise now of a wide array of topics, and I would assume something in the context of violence and
Mm.
hitting and abuse. I'm sure there's age appropriate books out there for children that parents can vet before they share it with their children. But I would almost put money on it.
So, as we wind down popcorn style, what is one thing that you want to leave with the Love Bay family tonight? Go.
Um, I would say just continue to be vulnerable, have conversations. Don't be afraid. Don't think nobody's going to listen to you. Again, there's therapists on here. There's people on here who want to listen to your stories. There's people everywhere who genuinely care about you. So speak up. Speak up. Stop being quiet.
Yeah.
Your voice should be heard.
I'll definitely say, tap into your inner child a lot more and feel free to express it as much as you need. Today, I'm at my in-laws. I heard the ice cream truck. I got a rocket popsicle. And I'm like, I haven't had one of these in decades. We used to wait for it, right? It just brings back, I was so happy I got it. I'm like, it's just sugar and ice. But definitely tap into it because the memories are good and the obstacles you had then, it gives you an opportunity to overcome them. So definitely, yeah.
Good. It's very good.
Yeah.
I would say my message is for not men who've experienced this, but the community who is there to support. I think if this has sparked something in you to even just grow an awareness of what's out there, maybe you recognize there is a gap of what's out there in the community for support, and maybe it sparks something that you want to start something, or you want to do some training, or to even talk with someone in this field to know how you can better support people that maybe cross your path that are experiencing this. Please let that spark that's in you from this conversation, let it grow. Really step out there. We need to build up this community for people who have experienced this, and we need to do it proactively. Like, we need to do it now. Every day is a good day to start strengthening our community and our resources and our spaces of help. So
Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely. I also like to add that men's experiences of domestic violence deserves equal recognition and compassion. The fact that majority of people experiencing domestic violence are women doesn't mean that the men or the few men who experience it should be diminished. Domestic violence should not be tolerated in any gender. So let's recognize it. Let's address it. Let's not dismiss. Let's not watch that person beat that man and smile and laugh at. No, let's stop it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, Love Bay family. Another Barbershop Tuesday has come to a close, and next week is our Insight Hour. We have Natasha Pennycook coming to drop some wisdom on our community for radical rest, reclaiming rest in a world that keeps us busy. So until next week, Love Bay family, peace out.
Bye, everyone. Okay.